Number 3. Roger Reed Jr. and Loshonda Williams. On Halloween Day 2014, 23-year-old Roger Reed Jr. and 24-year-old Loshonda Williams of Greenville, Mississippi, were in Memphis, Tennessee. That evening, they decided to go back to Greenville. They withdrew over $700 from an ATM in a convenience store, and despite having money, Reed decided to carjack someone. As they were walking down the road away from the store, 57-year-old Don Smith, who was a pastor at a local Baptist church, drove past them 3 or 4 times. He then pulled up beside the couple, and they asked him what he wanted. Smith said that he wanted to have sex with both of them, and he would pay them $40. The couple agreed, and they got into his car. At some point, Reed pulled out a gun and shot the pastor in the head. They loaded his body into the back seat and drove to a wooded area where they dumped the body near a pond. After they dumped the body, they used the car to pick up Williams' 2 daughters, and they drove back to Greenville. Not long after Smith's body was dumped, it was found by 2 people walking their dog. This sparked a search for his car, and it was found 4 days later at a convenience store in Greenville. Reed and Williams were in the car. They took off and the police pursued. After a high-speed car chase, the couple finally gave up. In Williams' purse, they found the murder weapon. It turned out that besides the car, they also stole $40 and Smith's watch. They also found some innocent-looking pictures on Williams' Facebook and her phone. In the photos, Reed and Williams are smiling and look happy. In one of the pictures, they are even kissing. All of the photos were taken shortly after the murder, and they were taken inside the pastor's car. Reed denied committing the murder. He said that on Halloween night, Williams got into a strange car after they got into an argument. She returned a short time later, driving the car, and Smith's dead body was in the back seat. His lawyer pointed out that the gun was found in Williams' purse, the selfies were taken on her phone, and they were uploaded to her Facebook account. The jury didn't buy his story, and Reed was sentenced to life. Williams testified against Reed, and she was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Number 2. George Thomson, Brahnn Finley, and Daniel Johnston. On the morning of June 16, 2015, a visitor to the Baptist Church Cemetery in Carlisle, Cumbria, England, made a horrifying discovery. It was the dead body of a teenage boy. The police were called and the body was sent to the medical examiner. He was identified as 14-year-old Jordan Watson. He had been struck 40 to 50 times, and he died from 9 deep gashes caused by a large knife. The police started their investigation by looking at the people that Jordan last had contact with. This led to them phoning 18-year-old George Thomson, a supposed friend of Jordan, and they asked him to come to the police station to talk about Jordan's murder. When he got the call, Thomson was at McDonald's with a friend, and he told the friend that he wasn't involved in the stabbing. However, at this point, the cause of death had not been revealed publicly. This was only the first mistake of many that Thomson made. The police looked in his bedroom, and they found more than 70 weapons. One of them was a kukri knife, and it had blood on it. The DNA was tested, and the blood belonged to Jordan. The police checked Thomson's cell phone and found out that he had been planning the murder for some time. He even got 2 friends involved, Brahnn Finley, 19, and Daniel Johnston, who was also 19. They lured Jordan out to the cemetery by telling him that they were meeting a man to sell him some weapons. They told him he would get a cut of the money if he came. Jordan looked up to Thomson, so he went to the cemetery just after midnight. When Jordan got to the cemetery, Thomson beat him and then hacked him to death while Finley and Johnston cheered him on. Just an hour before killing Jordan, the 3 friends posed for this selfie. It was taken in Thomson's bedroom, and the trio knew that they were on their way to kill Jordan. As for why they would kill the 14-year-old, it was because Thomson was jealous. Thomson had fallen in love with Jordan's 14-year-old girlfriend, and he wanted Jordan out of the way. In early 2016, all three young men were convicted of killing Jordan Watson. Daniel Johnston was sentenced to 10 years, Brahnn Finley was given a minimum term of 14 years, and the ringleader, George Thomson, was sentenced to a minimum of 27 years. Number 1. Franklin Floyd. Franklin Delano Floyd was born in June 1943. He grew up in an orphanage in Georgia after his father died and his mother ran off. His life of crime started when he was 17 years old. After a robbery, he exchanged gunfire with the police. He was shot in the stomach, but he survived. He spent about a year and a half in a youth institute, and he was freed in August 1961. In June 1962, at the age of 19, he kidnapped a 4-year-old girl from a bowling alley in Hapville, Georgia. Floyd was found with the girl in the forest a short time afterwards. He was arrested and the girl was returned to her parents. A month later, he was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison for child molestation. He escaped in February 1963, and he was arrested again after he robbed a bank in Macon, Georgia. Floyd was given a 15-year sentence for the robbery, but it ran concurrent with his other sentences. This allowed him to be paroled in 1973 after serving just 10 years in prison. Not long after being released on parole, Floyd grabbed a woman who was walking along a street and he tried to force her into his van. Luckily, she escaped and Floyd was arrested, but for some reason he was allowed to remain free while awaiting trial. Floyd didn't show up for his trial though. Instead, he moved away from Georgia and the authorities lost track of him. He ended up in North Carolina and he married a woman named Sandy Chipman who had 4 children, 3 daughters, and an infant son. In 1975, Chipman was jailed in Dallas, Texas for 30 days on a minor charge. She left her children in the care of Floyd. When she got out of prison, she discovered that Floyd had disappeared with the children. She contacted the police, and they said that since Floyd was the stepfather, he had a right to take the children. Chipman found out that 2 of her children had been dropped off at a church, but her 6-year-old daughter, Suzanne Savekis, and her infant son were still missing. Since the police told Chipman that Floyd had a right to take the kids, they were never reported missing. Floyd and Suzanne, but not the infant boy, resurfaced again a few months later in Oklahoma City. He said that his name was Trenton B. Davis, and that Suzanne was his daughter. He enrolled her in school, and not long afterwards he had this picture taken, where they are posing as a father and daughter. 9 years later, they moved to Georgia, and Floyd started using the name Warren Marshall, and Suzanne started using the name Sharon Marshall. Suzanne graduated from high school with honors, and she became pregnant shortly afterwards. They moved to Valrico, Florida, and on April 21, 1988, she gave birth to a son named Michael. Next, they moved to Pinellas Park, Florida, and Suzanne worked as an exotic dancer in nearby Tampa. Her co-workers thought it was strange that Suzanne's father would come in and watch her strip. While working there, Suzanne befriended a co-worker, 19-year-old Cheryl Comesso. In the spring of 1989, Floyd convinced Comesso that he could get her work in Hollywood if he could take some nude photos of her. Comesso agreed, but soon after learned that Floyd had scammed her. To get revenge, Comesso called the welfare office and told them that Suzanne was receiving welfare checks while she was working at the club. Floyd took all of Suzanne's money, and when he found out what Comesso did, he became enraged and confronted her outside the club. Floyd hit her at least once and had to be physically restrained from continuing his attack. About 2 weeks after the confrontation, in the first week of April, Comesso went missing. In May 1989, Floyd, Suzanne, and Michael went to New Orleans. Using the names Clarence Marcus Hughes and Tanya Dawn Tadlock, Floyd and Suzanne got married. Then they moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Suzanne continued to work as an exotic dancer. On April 24, 1990, Floyd, Suzanne, and Michael drove to Oklahoma to stay in a motel because Suzanne had an early morning doctor's appointment there. At 12:55 a.m. on April 25th, a call came into 911 that a woman had been struck in a hit-and-run accident and she was lying on the side of the road near the motel. The paramedics took her to the hospital, and the only thing that she could say was "Daddy." The next morning, Floyd drove to a store near the motel looking for Suzanne, and a person at the store said that a woman had been taken to the hospital hours earlier after she was struck by a car. Floyd went to the hospital and said that the woman was his wife, and he gave them her alias, Tanya Dawn Hughes. Suzanne died 5 days later. Floyd gave Michael to the foster care system, and then he left town. This prompted the police to start looking into Tanya Dawn Hughes' history. When they did, they found out her husband's real name was Franklin Floyd, and he was wanted for the attempted kidnapping in 1973. Floyd was found living in Augusta, Georgia, 2 weeks after he fled. He was arrested for the 1973 attempted kidnapping, and he was incarcerated. While he was in prison, he fought for the parental rights of Michael. Michael had been placed with a family, and they wanted to adopt him, but couldn't because of Floyd. A paternity test was ordered, and it concluded that Floyd was not the father of Michael. Michael's father was a high school classmate of Suzanne's. Floyd spent 33 months in prison, and he was released on March 30th, 1993. 15 months later, on September 12, 1994, Floyd went to Michael's school in Choctaw, Oklahoma, armed with a gun. He forced the principal to get 6-year-old Michael out of class. Floyd then got Michael and the principal into the principal's pickup truck. At gunpoint, he forced the principal to drive to a forested area. Once there, he got the principal out of the truck and handcuffed him to a tree. Floyd then drove off in the truck with Michael. The principal was found 4 hours later, and the police were alerted. 2 months later, Floyd was found in Kentucky. He was arrested at the car sales lot where he worked. Michael wasn't with him, and he has never been found. Floyd originally told the police that he left Michael with someone he knows, and that he is alive and safe. While investigating Floyd, they found this picture and did some math. They knew that Floyd was in prison at the time that Suzanne would have been conceived, so they knew that it wasn't his daughter. So they asked him what her real identity was and where did he get her from. Floyd said that he saved her from her mother, who was a drug addict, and he couldn't remember her name. The police tried to find out who she might be, but because no missing persons report was ever filed, they had no idea who she was and where she came from. 5 months later, the body of Cheryl Camesso was found in Florida, not far from where she was last seen. Her body, which had been dumped beside an interstate, had been there for 5 or 6 years. She had been badly beaten and shot in the head. Just 2 days before the skeletal remains were found, the principal's pickup truck that Floyd stole was being broken down for parts after it was sold in an auction. Taped to the undercarriage of the truck was a manila envelope. In the envelope, there were 97 pictures of 4 young girls being sexually abused. Most of the pictures were of Suzanne throughout the years. Camesso was another girl who appeared in the pictures. It showed her tied up and beaten. Floyd was convicted of killing Cheryl Camesso on September 28, 2002, and he was sentenced to death. However, the conviction brought very little closure to the case. Notably, what was the real identity of the woman he called his daughter and then married, and what happened to Michael? So the FBI continued to interview him throughout the years, and in 2014 they found out Suzanne's true identity. They contacted her mother, and through DNA they confirmed that she was her missing daughter. Sadly, the whereabouts of her infant son are still unknown, but it is presumed that he is dead. The location of Michael is also unknown, but in 2016, Floyd admitted to shooting him to death on the day that he kidnapped him. He said that he buried him somewhere near the Oklahoma and Texas border. The police searched the area, but they did not turn up his remains. Currently, Franklin Floyd is sitting on death row in Florida. He has never been charged with the murder of Suzanne, but he is considered the only suspect. Thanks a lot for watching the video. Hopefully you found it interesting. If you did, please subscribe. We post a new video every Thursday and Sunday. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. The links are in the description below the video. But that's all for now. Thanks again for watching.